Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Booyakasha! There we go. There's a nice 90s reference to kick things off for both British listeners. How is everyone doing? It is, of course, time for Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, blah, blah, blah. It is, we'll start the normal way. I don't know why I started off with shouting out an Ali G reference that became rather tiresome in the early noughties. But anyway, who knows? I never know what's going to come out of my brain. But we'll start as normal. In theory, I should stop this and start it again, but whatever. I'm just going to do it again. Booyakasha! Are you here? Sorry. Okay, let's start normal. Hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, the 16th of April, 2025, although really, obviously, it's Tuesday, the 15th of April. What did I say it was? Tuesday? Did I say Wednesday the 15th? Obviously, it's Tuesday the 15th. Obviously, as you can possibly tell by my voice, because it's not croaky, it is the afternoon. I'm recording this the day before. You don't care. Just get on with the podcast, James. We're a minute in and you're already talking absolute bollocks. Okay, it is, when you're listening to this or when it lands, I don't know when you're listening to it. Shall I start this again? It is Wednesday, the 16th of April, 2025, and it is, of course, time for episode 51 of Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. Right, we got that out of the way. Let's go. Been a busy week. Lots to talk about. Shows in St Andrews. Lots of gossip there. My first ever show and indeed first ever visit to Manan. Some of you might have seen the rather eventful ferry ride back on the old Facebooks. Lots to share. Tomorrow morning, i.e. Wednesday morning, i.e. the day that I'm pretending it is now, I have a keynote speech at 10 a.m. in the St. John Trade and Convention Centre to over 400 realtors from across New Brunswick. In many ways, the dream gig for me. Realtors like myself obviously love this province. Like myself, they're often the first people to meet newcomers when they come here. Generally, people move here or visit here and think about moving here, and the first thing they do is meet a realtor, and the second thing that happens is someone says you need to speak to this other gentleman that moved here, James Mullinger. So should be a dream gig. I've meticulously planned what I believe to be the most perfect keynote I can do. I look back to last year. I've been sitting here watching footage, listening to audio, we're looking at old PowerPoint presentations from previous keynotes and trying to essentially deliver it should go well. I mean, it's a room full of like-minded people. Every show I've ever done with New Brunswick realtors, or indeed realtors from across Canada before, has been wonderful. On home turf. I met with my friend Dwayne Hayes today, who is also speaking at the conference. It should be good, but of course, as ever, you know, it means so much to me that I will not rest and I will not stop stressing until it's over. So anyway, but rather than go through what I've done in the last week, and there's lots of fun things to come. I'm going to be talking to you about Drew Haven Town Country Club in St Andrews. I'm going to be talking about the reason why I have regrettably cancelled my upcoming shows in Maine. I'm going to be talking about what went down on Manan. I'm going to be talking about Paddy The Baddy, who beat Michael Chandler at the UFC on Saturday night. But I'm also going to be talking about why we should be not watching UFC, or at least not watching it legally, and watching Fight League Atlantic instead. I've got tons to talk about, but I've got a plethora of delightful questions from you all. Thank you very much, by the way, for that. So rather than make you all wait for the questions while I drone on, and let's face it, what tends to happen is I start talking about what I've been doing during the week, and the next thing you know, suddenly, lo and behold, there's no time for the questions. So I'm going to take my time with the questions first. Or I will say on Friday, very quickly, I went to the Algonquin for a photo shoot for a collaboration we are working on with... Well, it doesn't matter who it is. Well, it's the Egg Farmers of New Brunswick. They're doing a big conference later this year that I'm performing at. Wonderful, wonderful people. Eggs, of course, in America right now. Well, eggs have been very expensive in America now for various reasons, although everything's going to be expensive in America soon because of the Orange Rapist. So that's what's happening there. Anyway, what my point is this. The Egg Farmers of New Brunswick, wonderful, beautiful people. What was my point about the eggs? Yes, anyway, went to Algonquin to do a photo shoot with the amazing new chef there. Chef Kumar. His name is Prasanna Kumar. He came here from Ontario, but the stuff this guy has done, it's absolutely phenomenal. He opened the Ivy in Dubai. He has worked you name it. I mean, it would run like literally dozens of restaurants, dozens of like half a dozen 5-star restaurants at the same time in Dubai International Airport. Like I say, he was responsible for opening the Ivy, which I mean, Ivy in London, one of my favorite restaurants ever. Won every award going, and he's the new chef at the Algonquin. An absolute gentleman. We did a lovely photo shoot with him on Friday. So when you go to the Algonquin, and again, whole new menu, wonderful collaboration. You will see the fruits of that collaboration in the next issue of the Mailto. That's another thing that I've got this week. I have 3 gigs this week, but I also have I think I mentioned before that our summer issue is the travel issue, because I'm possibly either just such a lover of the Maritimes or just a control freak. I've actually taken on far too many writing assignments for this magazine and indeed many others. So right now I'm in the midst of writing a huge travel guide to Halifax, a huge travel guide to Moncton, somewhat inspired by my video that you might have seen about why I love the Magnetic Hill area. Also writing an article about Grand Manan. Also writing an article about these amazing egg recipes that amazing chef Kumar's come up with. Anyway, sorry, I know I brought up what's going on across the border. I know I'm not going to go into the Trumpy one, Pete, just yet, because no doubt possibly I haven't looked at your questions yet, by the way, so I don't know what they're going to be. But here we go. A podcast video. Oh, June Greenlaw, lovely June Greenlaw. I believe you were very kindly. Yes, you were the lovely, lovely, lovely June that was at Grand Manan show on Saturday night. Next to your name, it says top fan. So thank you for that. June's question is, when are you going to do a show at the Garcelon Civic Centre in St. Stephen, New Brunswick, bordering Calais? By the way, it's Calais, Maine, not callus. A callus is something you get on your foot that is like a verruca, but worse. Is that right? No, a callus is what you get in your hand. A callus is what you get in your hand from too much masturbation, isn't it? No, too much manual labour. Same difference. When am I going to... You know what? It's funny you say that, June. I have been meaning to go. I've done a few shows at the Garcelon Civic Centre before. My friend Mark Burnett promoted some wonderful shows there. Tyler Warren Ellis was there to film them. Highlights of those shows are actually available. It has been at least 5 years since I've performed there. So your question is, when am I going to do a show there for all those Mainers who could use the gift of laughter? You're, of course, referring to the fact that I've had to cancel my shows in Maine. Fascinating thing, when I posted online that I know on this podcast I've been asking, should I do the shows? And I've been, my moral stance is that I should do the shows, just for the record. I don't think that I should not go there. I don't think I should not... Obviously, I'm boycotting vacationing in the States, but I don't see a problem with working in the States and making money in American dollars and bringing it back to Canada and spending it here, especially while every Canadian, supposedly Canadian arts and or comedy festival pretty much exclusively books American performers, and people book tickets for them in their tens and thousands, which of course they have absolutely every right to do. But traditionally, of course, it has always been very, very easy for American performers to come and perform in Canada. We make it very easy for them. Americans make it very difficult for Canadian performers to go there. And so it doesn't help when the Canadian comedy clubs and festivals also solely embrace American performers. Anyway, all of that is not the point. My point is that I was going to do the shows. The only reason I'm not doing them, it's not necessarily a moral quandary. It is simply, as much as I love doing stand-up, and I have performed, I never cancel shows. And just to be clear, these shows are not cancelled. They are either postponed or simply shifting venue. I have driven through the worst snowstorms in Canadian history to get to and from shows. I have performed with serious ailments and injuries. I've been on stage with, you don't want to hear this, but diarrhea, flu, gastric flu, you name it. I've done it with... I was back on stage 12 hours after getting... Was that? No. Yes, 12 hours, less than 12 hours after my vasectomy. I was on stage doing a show to 400 firefighters in Fredericton. After my hernia op, I was back on stage 3 days later against all advice. I do not cancel shows lightly. I've also done shows on days of unspeakable tragedies, merely hours after losing dear friends who have losing dear friends. I have been back on stage. and somehow found, I don't know what, a way of compartmentalizing and going up there and doing the show to the best of my ability. I do not cancel shows. However, I am not willing to spend 2 weeks in jail. I mean, again, who knows? This is the thing. I also don't want to get swept up in misinformation or believing all the BS that you read online. Although what's fascinating is how there is so much. I posted simply that I was not doing the shows. I didn't want to get it political. I posted that it's just too risky. The thing that is indisputable is there are examples of students and or performers being arrested and thrown in jail by ICE for weeks on end. That's a fact. So regardless of what you think about anything else, regardless of whether it's true that they are going through phones at the border, apparently they are. My contact in Maine, who I was going to do the show for at his venue, he did speak to the border guards. They are looking at phones is one of the things. There is also, again, this is possibly a myth, but there is talk that when they plug your phone in, they download all the content. Who knows? The fact is, my phone is full of content of these podcasts, in which basically for the last 6 months, I don't think I've gone to a single one without criticizing the actions of the What's It. It's not called a What's It here, what do you call it? A Cheeto. And the cheating Cheeto. At what point, given I was talking about the eggs, where eggs were already expensive in the States, but obviously everything's going up. At what point will all of the, I don't want to say morons, but the billionaires that supported Trump who've lost all this money, at what point will people realize that this is not all part of some grand master plan and that actually he's just basically the Joker who wants to watch the world burn? Who basically wanted to get the presidency to avoid jail. Is it fair to say, I think it's fair to say that is he would have gone to jail if it hadn't, the simple reason that they just threw out all of the charges was because we can't put the president in jail, obviously. So that's that. I will just quickly say I watched the movie The Apprentice last week. As much as you kind of think to yourself, I can't bear to watch any more Trump, given every TV channel is just the Trump show 24/7. The Apprentice movie is absolutely excellent and not as, obviously it's depressing, but they've done it in a very, very interesting, almost documentary style way that, I mean, he's obviously not in any way likable, but you do, interesting, but Bill Maher, who is often an annoyingly obsessed with just being a provocateur. He went to the White House, and as I understand it, again, just reporting what I've read, that he came back on his show saying that, I thought it was going to be carnage in there, and it's not. He's actually got a grand master plan. He's actually very intelligent, blah, 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 blah. And then someone else came out, an interesting thing on Threads, someone that worked with Cheeto on the TV show The Apprentice, the first 3 seasons, basically describes the way in which how Trump's genius is that he can be whoever you want him to be. He can tell you, I mean, we know all this, but essentially that people go in the room and he can put on what he wants you to believe, he can make you believe. So if he wants you to think that everything's normal, he can make you believe that. And his trick is, of course, flattery, which egomaniacs are easy to flatter. All of this is to say, sorry, get to the bloody point, manager, that when I posted I wasn't doing these shows, mostly people are saying completely understandable. Then suddenly this person appeared who first of all said to me, for goodness sake, grow a pair. Then she started, and you read her, it was a picture, she had like one friend, the account had been created like 10 minutes before, and she then starts attacking every single person who's commented. She's like replying, like, my dear friend Shelby's mum, Lisa, had posted, good on you, it's just too uncertain. And this bot has written uncertain how, and they're just trying to start. And you realize that, wow, this is literally, and it's not someone, no mutual friends. Well, this person had one friend, this person had, it's a bot, it's a fake account. And it's like, what is going on that these people are trying to create the arguments? And anyway, so I am going to do these shows. I am going to do them in Charlotte County. The shows that were supposed to happen in Maine will now be happening. So it's taking 10 minutes to get to the point. These shows that I was supposed to do in Maine are now going to take place definitely going to take place at Drew Haven in St. Andrews, which is now owned by the wonderful Sean. Now, Sean was the manager there. He is also, of course, one of the most loved musicians. I would say anywhere. Sean Richard, an absolute gentleman, one of the kindest, nicest people I know. He is at the helm of Drewhaven, which already was a fantastically awesome venue. Some of you might know the amazing artist Jeff Slater created, basically has recreated the New York Carlisle inside. So you can enjoy the Carlisle without having to go to New York. There you go. And obviously, the Drewhaven's full of local bars. Anyway, so the shows are going to take place in Charlotte County. I'm also thinking of getting some vendors, like Canadian vendors, to come in and sell stuff so that I can invite all the wonderful people of Maine to come into New Brunswick, to come to these shows, enjoy some inclusive, upbeat, celebratory comedy, and buy some Canadian products, and then go back to your... divided country is a polite way of putting it. So the shows are going ahead. The reason I'm upset about that situation, obviously. I love Maine. I love the people of Maine, the ones that agree with me politically. Well, you know what? Even the ones that don't, I mean, part of division is the problem. Anyway, the shows are going ahead. It's just so weird seeing these bots appear that are trying to stir up and stoke up trouble. Tracy Bowley, but Bewley, Tracy Bewley. Thank you very much. Do I ever come to Ottawa asking for a transplanted St. John who misses home? Well, Tracy, thank you very much for asking. We miss you. And I do come to Ottawa. Last time I did shows there was maybe a year ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, at Yuck Yucks Ottawa. Lovely Howie from Yuck Yucks Ottawa did message me a few weeks ago about doing some more shows. Last time I was there, I think we had 4 and only 2 sold out. So I kind of have been slightly put off going back. But if there's a demand in Ottawa, I'll be back. And I don't know if I can necessarily come back and do 4 in a club. I might find a small theatre, but I will be back to Ottawa. I love it in Ottawa, and I've done lots of corporates there since. But yes, you're right. I do need to do a public show there. So thank you very much for asking, Tracy, and we miss you. Tammy Landry, did you enjoy the Manan delicacy of Dulse while you were there on the island? I did not have any Dulse. I have had Dulse before from St. John City Market. Obviously love it because you have to. The best sandwich ever, I wonder if you can still get it there, was the DLT, rather than BLT, the DLT, the Dulse lettuce tomato sandwich that used to be available at the St. John City Market. I enjoyed a lot on Manan. I guess I can quickly address Manan. The weather was not good. The show came about in Manan because of this podcast. I've waxed lyrical on this podcast many times about how desperate I was to do shows on Manan, and amazing Jason Gary, who, by the way, is a phenomenal stand-up comedian who I'd obviously knew by reputation but hadn't seen live until this weekend. He is absolutely hilarious. He does a show with the wonderful Thane Fawkes at Wasted Day, which is like the Long Bay uptown. And they do a show called The Bomb Show, which is reminiscent of Kill Tony, but probably it's like a less racist version of Kill Tony with less problematic guests, let's say. So Jason reached out and said, hey, I'm from Manan. If you want to do a show there, let's make it happen. We made it happen. We went there, did it in high school. Had an absolute blast. Jason gave me all the intel I needed. The clips from which I'm uploading all the time, but there was so many local references. Matt Keenan was also on the bill. Jason and Gary do a lot of shows together. Catch both them on tour. They were both phenomenal. It was we did it at the Manan Community School. About 250 people came out, which is absolutely unbelievable to have 15-20% of the entire island at a show. Met lots of lovely people, had lots of fun, stayed at the gorgeous Turning Tide cottages, which absolutely beautiful. And if you've not stayed, I mean, my goodness, it's 5-star luxury saunas, hot tub, Netflix, it's premium style staying. So stay at Turning Tide cottages, book this summer. I'm going to be back at Manan doing a show later this year. So to answer your question, Tammany, I didn't have any Dulse, but I did have lobster though. Oh my goodness. Lovely Ali at Turning Tide, left 2 lobsters, alive lobsters, in the fridge for me, which I then froze and then killed humanely. Did the Googles on how to be a murderer humanely. You worked out to do the mob hit version of a lob hit. You could say. That is a terrible joke. That is, whenever I do jokes like that here at home, my kids go, "You are not funny. You are not funny. You are not as funny as you think you are." Good to have critics in the house. Yeah, I did a lob hit, and boiled up both lobsters, ate them, then had a nap. Then Jason took me over a tour of the island, took me the old airport road, the old post office, showed me where the Save Easy used to be. Went to check out 2 of the most iconic lighthouses. Then had a shower, then we did a gig, and it's absolutely bloody lovely. And then Jason and Matt came back to Turning Tide with me, and we stayed up till 1 a.m. talking about comedy and all our favourite comedians. And they recommended Ari Schaefer. I'd had trouble kind of getting into, but they so vociferously recommended him that I then watched America's Sweetheart on Netflix on Sunday. And I have to say, it starts off a bit like, oh, I'm trying to be controversial, blah, 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 like you'd expect from a friend of Joe Rogan's. And then, I mean, obviously, it's, you've got to like offensive comedy to let's not say controversial or challenging comedy, we'll say, because I wouldn't, it's very, I mean, basically, anyway, it gets very good. The second half is very good. It is, not for everyone, but I did enjoy it a lot. The Kill Tony Netflix special is absolutely bizarre. So it's called Kill or Be Killed. Kill Tony is finally on Netflix. I listen to the Kill Tony podcast all the time, and I love it. And of course, it's hit and miss because that's the nature of the beast. The show they've done on Netflix, I mean, I guess the point that they were trying to make was they're just going to do a normal episode of Kill Tony, i.e. anything can happen. But basically anything does happen, and that is not very much. It is shite. The thing I dislike most possibly is that it's all the best comedians. I mean, Shane Gillis is very funny, obviously, but he's in character as Donald Trump. He does have some good lines, but he's basically in and out of character with that. There's also the Elon Musk character. I mean, it must be very confusing to listen to this particular episode, but I listen to Kill Tony all the time and love. It seemed, I think earlier on the show was very much about humiliating the comedians. I find now that the comics on the panel are a lot less abusive and a bit more supportive. And Tony Hinchcliffe's interviewing generally I find to be absolutely fascinating because he kind of, I think I've said this before in the podcast, how Tony Hinchcliffe kind of brings out of comedians what's really funny about them. So they come out and do their 1 minute, and it's generally trying to be shock tactic or doing what they think is what comedians do by doing an impression essentially of, trying to do what Dave Chappelle does or what Joe Rogan does or what Jim Jeffries does. They come out and think they can do a load of, I don't know, race or rape or drug jokes, and it's going to be good enough. But then when Hinchcliffe's interviewing them about their lives and digging into the nitty gritty of their existence, he ekes out of them insights that, because they say write what you know, and he really brings out of them essentially what they are and really what they should be doing comedy about. And then when the audience laughs, it's like, yeah, that's what you should. Anyway, it was the Netflix special of Kill Tony is the worst episode of Kill Tony I've ever seen. And if it was the first one I'd seen, I'd never watch any of the others or listen to the others. I don't like watching. It's funny. Listening to it is a very different experience to watching it. Maybe because you have to look at these ugly, awful, white, male, American, sneering. I mean, Joe Rogan is just sat there. He looks off his face. I mean, he looks like he's on LSD. Barely says a word, which is possibly a good thing because it stops it from, I mean, let's face it, he doesn't say much that's very funny generally. So when you listen to the podcast, you don't really notice, but it's such a weird thing, this kind of all-male panel kind of. Anyway, moving on, Charmaine Cap. Do I like Marmite? Yes, I absolutely love Marmite. Marmite, of course, famously, it's like Vegemite, for those of you that don't know. They say you either love it or hate it. Like generally, if something is quite extreme, I guess like Tony Hinchcliffe. Tony Hinchcliffe is like Marmite. Either you love him or you hate him. Well, actually, no, it's not true. I think he's all right. Whereas I bloody love Marmite. And you can get it, by the way, here now. You didn't used to be able to get it. My dear late friend, Pat Clark, my British friend, Pat Clark, who I met, who was one of the first friends I made when I moved here. Sadly passed. My friend Pat passed. This is the strangest thing of the universe. I was recording the audiobook of my first book at Paul Milner's Trillium Studios in Uptown St. John, and the day that we were recording the chapter entitled Pat Clark, about my friendship with Pat Clark and our bonding of Marmite, was the day that I got the message from her amazing, beautiful daughter, Lynn Flynn, that she had passed. I mean, the universe. Oh, Caitlin Dean, what is the best gift you've ever received and why? What's the best gift you've ever given? Oh, that's a good one, Caitlin. Okay. I mean, looking around me right now, I'm going to have to go with what I can see. So the two of the best gifts I've ever been given are, one, a poster for the Jerry Seinfeld. It's not the Jerry Seinfeld movie, but it's a documentary called Comedian, in which Jerry Seinfeld and Audie Adams appear, which was done by someone called, what's his name? Charles or something ridiculous. The director, I don't know. 2003, I believe, documentary called Comedian. The poster for the movie is Seinfeld walking across the road holding a mic stand. It's one of my favorite images. It's an image I actually mocked up, homaged when I started out in comedy. Anyway, the movie follows Seinfeld as he's trying to write a new show after burning all of his old material, and it follows Orny Adams at the start of his career. And the tagline for this movie is, without a doubt, the most horrifying movie you'll ever see, brackets, if you want to be a stand-up comedian. The poster was gifted to me by Seinfeld, and it is signed, James, thanks so much, Jerry Seinfeld. That poster is one of my most cherished items. The other thing I can see right now is a painting of me as a cat doing stand-up comedy that was gifted to me by Lily McNulty of Romero House fame. And I would say that is one of, I stare at this, I look at this painting more than I look at possibly anything else in the world other than a laptop. When I spend most of my time looking at a laptop, but every now and again I look up for inspiration and I see this smiling cat in this kind of swirling green, like he's kind of traveling through time and space, holding a microphone, looking happy, but also slightly wired. Essentially, it's like an ADHD cat. It's me as a cat is the point. And that's a great gift. My teddy bear that is that I call Burglar. I'm looking at some Care Bears there that Heidi White gave me. I'm looking at a piece of driftwood that I believe is Manan driftwood that my friend Deb Perry gave me at Santa Claus. So those are all the best gifts. Oh no, you know what? I have to credit to my wife. The best gift I've ever received is actually, it is kind of the same image. It's me doing the Seinfeld pose. My wife gave me for my 30th birthday tickets to see Seinfeld in Memphis, and it was that kick-started. We had no money, and she spent our life savings on tickets to Memphis, knowing that was my dream to see Seinfeld live. We went there, watched the show. I blogged about it for GQ. He read it. His manager showed it to him. I then said, "Will he do an interview?" He did an interview. Then it was a phone interview. Then we got to meet. And then that led to him giving me the piece of advice, which is that, a a piece of life advice, career advice is make a list of all the things everyone expects you to do and do the opposite. And that was the point at which I decided I was going to leave London and continue my comedy career in St. John, New Brunswick, which led to everything here. So the best gift I've ever received was tickets to see Jerry Seinfeld in Memphis. The most ridiculous, rash decision. I'm sure she didn't buy those tickets sober. And that led to basically interviewing my hero, seeing my hero live, then interviewing him, then meeting him, then directing him for a short film for the GQ iPad, then moving to Canada and everything else that's happened since. What's the best gift I've ever given? The most recent gift I've given was gifting Nancy Reagan the chance to do stand-up on her birthday. The best gift I've ever given. I'm going to come back to you on that, Caitlin. I would say the gifts I'm most proud of that I give people is like a lot of people, I used to make mixtapes back in the day. I like to create things for people, often on their birthdays. So I will often, I'm not a good designer, but using Canva or something, I'll create like a card with pictures on. This is shit. This is shit. What's the best? I mean, I make things for people. Is what I'm trying to say. Not the best gift. What's the best gift you ever given, James? I make arts and crafts for people. So in other words, you're a tight bastard and you've never given a good gift in your life. I can't think of a good gift. Have I ever given my wife a good gift? No. She gets very. I've given some terrible gifts, things she was very angry about. An ironing board, a Hoover, those did not go down well. Not that she does all the housework, but I just thought she might want it. Apparently, that is. What was that, Jimmy? There's that old Jimmy Carr joke. Something anyway. What's the best gift I've ever given? A signed copy, a rare unsigned copy of my book. Giorgio Paulin. Yeah, am I aware or a fan of Kids in the Hall? Funny you say that. I'm well aware of the Kids in the Hall legacy. I should watch Kids in the Hall. I weirdly have not actually seen any, but I am doing a gig with Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall, who I believe is an absolute legend. We are performing at the Cape Breton Comedy Festival together in August. So I'm going to read up on Kids in the Hall. Again, it's funny, 11 years after being, I'm still catching up. Like this time a year ago, I hadn't even watched any Trailer Park Boys. Pardon me, little burp there. And then when I was doing the sitcom for the Trailer Park Boys streaming network, which by the way, that's actually coming out. I've actually seen the poster for it now. And I'm not allowed to. They're waiting for a big reveal. Anyway, that sitcom is coming out at sometime this year on the Trailer Park Boys streaming network. So before I work with Scott, I will of course watch all the Kids in the Halls, and I'll be up to speed. Charlotte Flewelling, God bless you, Charlotte. Thank you always for your comments and posts. You too have a top fan badge on here, I believe. It's funny. I wonder what one has to do for the Facebooks to award these. Charlotte has very kindly asked it. I've got a bloody English literature degree. Oh my goodness. I had what the happiest, the best day of this last week has been. I've said this before. I obviously, my son, weirdly, my oldest son is like a math whiz, which I am not. And Pam says she's not, but she is the CFO of our company and does all the accounts. So I think she's probably quite good. Well, I guess we'll find out. I have no idea. I don't even have access to the bank account. So, which apparently is a glitch, I've been told. Apparently, RBC won't. But whenever we go in, I go in to say I don't know how to access the bank. It's as if she's standing behind me winking at them. So I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, my son Hunter is doing Macbeth and had to annotate. Oh, I mean, it's a dream come true for me. It's like the only thing I've ever been able to help with. I love, it was my favourite thing to do with English literature. And then I was so obsessed with doing feminist readings of classic novels that's why I then minored in women's studies as well. But going through Macbeth with him, and it's funny, different people like different things, but it's something I love more than finding meaning in Chaucer, Shakespeare, anyway, all those things. So I was just so happy anyway that I could finally actually sit and do something with him that I knew about. What were the highlights? Charlotte's question is, what were the highlights of your trip to Manan besides the show? Well, meeting Jason Guptill. Jason Gary goes by Jason Guptill. Sorry, Jason Guptill is his real name. He goes by Jason Gary because most MCs on the Canadian comedy circuit are effing morons and can't pronounce surnames. James Mulligan here, Mulligar, Jim Gale here. I can say this for certain. So he doesn't go by Guptill, he goes by Gary. The highlight was possibly Jason Guptill's meeting his family, but specifically seeing his grandmother in the front row. And I think we all know how much I love all grandmothers, obviously specifically my own grandmothers. God rest both of their beautiful souls. And seeing Jason's grandmother there, laughing her socks off in the front row, loving the work of her grandson, made me so happy because I know my grandmother would have done anything to see to make it to one of my shows, and I would have done anything. So yeah, I would say the highlight would have to be Jason's grandmother. And then, you know what? Just doing something I never get to do because my job so often touring theatres and doing corporates solo. It was sitting around chatting with Matt and Jason afterwards and talking about different comedians that we might not have heard of each other. Here's one for you guys. I think I've talked about this before. A British comedian who is considered highly problematic called Roy Chubby Brown, who was banned from British TV forever, but for many years, every Christmas was the #1 best-selling video. Like even like the year that Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves came out, what was that, like 89 or 88? It was like every other country in the world. The best-selling VHS video was Robin Hood at Christmas. In England, Roy Chubby Brown was #1. And he's still alive. He's 80 now, still performing. Have a look at his stuff and tell me if you think it's interesting to me because when you're a kid, when we were teenagers, we used to obviously love it. But what I find fascinating now is that, to my mind, the likes of middle class, suited, booted Jimmy Carr is no less offensive. Sorry, no less or more, whatever, offensive than Roy Chubby Brown. Anyway, have a look and see what you think. Tell me if you think it's funny. Tell me if it's dated. Tell me if you think it's offensive. Rebecca Davis. How often do you do rewrites or new additions to your show? As in, how do you keep it fresh? You've become such a staple must-see for so many of us around the Maritimes, so we must see more than 1 or 2 shows a year, for example. How do you come up with new stuff and that energy every time? Well, Rebecca, that's very kind. It's an interesting question. But it's also very kind that that's how you're framing it, because that means that the shows you've come to haven't been the same. I mean, the answer is it's not easy. I do talk to myself about it a lot. My biggest fear is often people coming in the show being the same. There are certain jokes, as you know, that, I mean, for example, certain jokes that I stopped doing after a few years of doing them, like homemade wine and ferry boats and where things used to be, and then recently brought back based on the fact that people would bring people to shows and say, oh, I wanted you to do that bit. And then, of course, there's the fact that people keep moving here. So what I tend to do, Rebecca, is I constantly test new material, which is why when you see me doing these shows at Long Bay Brewery or at Hampton Brewing Company, of which I actually have 2 next week. Next week's gigs every night, actually. The big St. John Regional Hospital Foundation fundraiser on the Wednesday. Thursday, Hampton Brewing Company. There's about 20 tickets left for that. Long Bay Friday night, there's like 4 left, and then St. John High Saturday night will be the new. So Saturday night will be the example of the new material being unveiled, plus some old favourites. So what I try and do, Rebecca, is every show I try and write something that day, something 100% topical, either about the place that I'm in or about the news, or something that's happened to me that day. I then go into the new material that I've been working on this year. In this case, obviously, a lot of stuff about Trump. I've got lots of about EV cars. Where's my list? Let me see my list. Where is it? I can't. Oh, here we go. Quebec, hockey. Yeah, there's so. I try and mix it up so that no 2 shows are identical. But for example, unless I'm in for the most part, I will, trot out a variation of the way things used to be joke, just because it's a crowd pleaser. And when things stop getting a laugh, it's when I drop them. But I'm constantly, so the used to be thing, like some people go online and say, oh, we all you talk about where things used to be. And it's like, yeah, but that's because every single town I go to, there's different ones. So I always get to the town, research what it is, come up with something new. So it's never the same joke word for word. But it's very kind of you to say this, Rebecca. I mean, the energy is because the energy is real. My passion and love for this is real. My gratitude to the audience for being there is real. I cannot believe that people, I mean, look, my microphone right now is sitting on a book called A History of Moncton from 1965. My next Moncton show is at the Capitol Theatre, not this October, but next October. So I'm already researching for that. But I am also, to be honest, writing an article about Moncton for the next issue of the magazine. So for me, it never stops, Rebecca. I'm never not coming up with ideas, looking for ideas, writing notes in my notebook, writing them in my diary, writing them in my phone. I often use this podcast as a sounding board for stuff as well. Lots of the things I'm often talking about on here are things that become material, but really it's the new material nights is the key. When I do a work in progress show, that's me up there with scraps and paper, letting the audience come up with suggestions. And by the way, at the St. John High show, even though there's going to be 900 people in there, I am taking suggestions from the crowd. That's right. I'm going to be taking your suggestions and improvising, because you know what? You can have, I can pretend that I've got balls by doing it in front of 50 or 100 people, but no, I'm going to do it in front of 900. You can pick the subject. I'll come up with a bit. Thank you for that lovely question. Grace Burt Dijkstra, thank you very much for your question. What are your dreams and aspirations? Well, my dreams and aspirations globally are for someone to be in charge of America who isn't a sociopath, is definitely in the short term the thing that I would like to happen. But you know what? If it has to, if that person being in power is what it takes to make Canadians unite and support each other, then so be it. Personally, I mean, career-wise, for me, flat is the new up, steady is the new up. If my dream, Grace, is that how old am I? 47. My dream is in 40 years, I'm still sat here doing this podcast. Can you imagine that? It is Wednesday, the 16th of April. And that's not how old people talk, though. I will probably sound that's very ageist of me, very rude. That's not. I'll be sat here basically sounding exactly the same, hopefully, if I stay healthy, and still doing gigs. But for the same, really, there's not much. Like I won't lie, Grace. Like there are things that I often think I want. Whether it's like a certain club to book me, a certain festival to book me, but really, I don't. Like that's the brainwashing of the mind and social media telling me that I want those things. Really, what I want, my dream, my biggest dream, is that in 40 years, people are still willing to come and see me at Long Bay Brewery, Hampton Brewing Company, St. John High, Ladysmith Manor, Drew Haven Inn. That's my dream. If anyone is still willing to part with, their hard-earned $20 or $30, and people are still buying the Mailto magazine, and obviously my family are healthy and happy and living good lives, that is the greatest dream. So to answer your question, like so many people are constantly looking to change their lives. I guess I'm uniquely blessed or appreciative that my wish is that things stay essentially how they are. Professionally, while my children grow, develop, become upstanding members of society, and hopefully do. And it's a boring answer, but it's unfortunately it's absolutely true. And really, I mean, I guess, yeah. For the most part, I'm living my life exactly how I want to. That's it. Boring. Greg, I apologize, but thank you very much. It's amazing, but that's my dream. I mean, I guess if I had it, yeah, like I say, occasionally in life, like I think I want things, but I really don't. I'm as someone that isn't naturally confident off stage. Any I know you're not talking just professionally. I guess maybe you are, like aspirations. Yeah. Any more? I can barely cope with the level of success isn't the word, but I can barely cope with juggling all of this. So yeah. I hope that's answered the question. Sorry, I'm training off. Maybe this is the problem with doing it in the afternoon when I've already been up for 10 hours. Greg Dunlap, lovely Greg. Thank you for, it was a year ago, Greg, I think, that I was posting the videos about your amazing MAMIC conference. What is my favorite mutual insurance company? Well, it would have to be Stanley Mutual in Fredericton. Greg and his team are truly, if you are looking for insurance, go to stanleymutual.com. Greg is an absolutely wonderful man, and everyone at that conference were a joy. It was last June, I think. Yeah, it was. It was the middle of June. I did a show for Greg at the Delta in Fredericton, and I saw Greg again. Seen him a couple of times. Saw him at the Fredericton Playhouse in September. Oh, what's the question? What's the most clever heckle I've had fired my way, and what was your reply? Well, one of the best is an amazing comedian called Gillian here in St. John, who wasn't a comedian at the time, actually, and possibly this was the moment that made her become one. Gillian Graves is her name. She's also a wonderful writer and a wonderful human being. I was testing material for a debater's appearance at Yuck, where Yuck Yucks used to be in downtown, but really it's uptown. Well, it's downtown, but it should be called downtown, but they call it uptown, St. John. And I did a joke which wasn't right. I was doing it was an annoying, one of those debates that you can't win, which was I was anti-French fries in PEI. The PEI Convention Centre, 1,000 people, and I'm anti-French fries. And the unfortunate thing with that is you can't win that. In some places, it's nice to be the villain, like when Peter Anthony was against me and he was arguing in favour of the motion that New Brunswick's the ugliest province in Canada. He was absolutely hilarious. And if you haven't heard that, look it up. And if you can't find it, message me. I'll send it to you. I'll send you the uncut version, in fact, which I have. Peter played up the villain part, absolutely tore strips off New Brunswick, and the wonderful people of St. John, with their amazing sense of humour, lapped it up. Now, I'm not saying that PEIers don't have a sense of humour, but I am saying they won't. Yeah, no, I'm not saying this. I'm saying that they don't. They're very sensitive, let's say. So there was no way of what's my point? The best heckle was I did the joke basically that was testing for that, and thank God Gillian said this. I said something like, I did the joke about the McCain plant shutting down on PEI, and they didn't laugh, and I was like, oh my God, you didn't like that? Like, why didn't you laugh? And Gillian's heckle was, it's not funny, it's just sad. And my reply was, that would be a good name for my autobiography. I still stand there. Be a good name for my next book. It's not funny. It's just sad. Katie Ryan is asking if I have a brother who's single, asking for a friend. I do have a brother. He is not single. He is also married to a Canadian. He is over in BC. However, I will certainly investigate to see if there are any brothers I don't know about out there. And if not, if you're looking for someone, I can certainly find another, lunatic, neurodiverse, bushy-eyebrowed, strange accented Brit for you, Katie. So please let me know. Lovely Jared Lewis Davidson. Jared, I hope you had a wonderful birthday, my friend. Where do I see myself in 10 years? All love, brother. Love to you, Jared. I hope you enjoyed the UFC on Saturday night. I hope you didn't pay for it. The pirates are getting easier and easier to find. I was obsessed with, obviously, Sunday morning as Matt Keenan and I waited for the ferry. We watched the Paddy The Baddy fight against Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, of course, was supposed to fight Conor McGregor last year. That didn't happen. Paddy The Baddy from Liverpool in England. He's kind of, in many ways, the new Conor McGregor, except not a rapist or a cocaine addict. And And by the new Conor McGregor, what I mean is he's going to become the new face of the UFC, and he's going to be like Conor and like Beckham did for football in soccer. He's going to be bringing in fans. Paddy is, and the great thing about Paddy is he's real, and it's funny. Michael Chandler, I think I follow him on Instagram, and it's quite insufferable, all his bragging and showing off and flexing and muscling and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, good old Paddy has a fight and then stuffs his face for 6 months, lives the dream. As he always says, he'd rather be happy and enjoy life and eat burgers and pizzas. And then he gets in shape for the fights, then goes back to it. Michael Chandler's just a bit of a... also, to be fair, Michael Chandler is also a Trump supporter. So F him and F the UFC. And by the way, while we're on this subject, we should all be watching Fight League Atlantic. Fight League Atlantic is the UFC of Atlantic Canada, except arguably better, more real people, less Trump-supporting people. I can't say that for sure. But I've become very friendly with Derek behind Fight League Atlantic. We're going to be working on lots of things together. Will I be appearing at Fight League Atlantic events? Quite possibly. Will Fight League Atlantic be appearing in a massive feature in the Maritime Edit? Very likely. And please, literally, if you have an interest in MMA sports or combat sports, please do check out Fight League Atlantic. And crucially, get it out of your head that this is not. Derek works tirelessly to make these family events. Like, the fighters are not allowed to swear in the ring, so don't think you. I mean, granted, yeah, you might not want your kids to see someone getting smashed in the face, but if you do, like I do, but you don't like swearing, like I don't. Well, I do. I like swearing on stage. I don't like it in family life. Anyway, you get my point, Jared. Oh, where do I see myself in 10 years? Hopefully, like I said, sitting here doing the same thing. Hopefully, both my kids off, either working or studying or shagging or off. Weird thing to say. Sorry. My point. My kids off having fun somewhere in the world while I continue to do what I love, and I hope. Yeah, I hope everyone. I hope we're all just. I hope we're all just still here. Yeah. What else? In it, God willing, Jared. I hope I'm still here in 10 years. So there we go. If I'm not still here on Wednesday, April 16th, 2035, yeah, that's where I'll be in the ground. But hopefully not. Anita Rack, thank you very much, Anita. Is it Anita Rack or Anita Rage? Let me know. Who do I truthfully think will win this most important election and why? Good question. I'm not going to get political, obviously, but well, it's a political question, so I'm going to have to. I have no idea, and what I also know, who's going to win? There's no way to tell. I mean, as everyone knows, pre-Trump, 100% Pierre was going to get in my opinion. Then post-Trump, obviously Trump's attempting this kind of lame psychological reverse psychology trick of saying he endorses Carney, knowing that Canadians hate Trump, so therefore by endorsing Carney, when really clearly Trump is, in cahoots with his mate Pierre. But you know what? I have friends and family and loved ones on both sides, and I also can. I mean, even though I lean to the left, and no, I'm not talking about my underwear arrangement. I can understand both points, and that's the problem really with the world, is that people can't understand both sides, and it's also quite ridiculous that in life you have to kind of go, well, I'm this way or that way, because quite frankly, there's things. As Chris Rock always said, what was it? He said, there's things I'm very liberal left wing about, like drugs and prostitution, and there's very things I'm very right wing about, like money and crime or law and order. Anyway, that's not neither of those things. None of those things apply to me. But I'm very left when it comes to finances. But then it's so weird for people to be calling Mark Carney a socialist and a communist when he was bloody head of the Bank of England. Well, I will tell you, Mark Carney, when he was head of the Bank of England, warned the Brits against leaving the EU. And if they had listened to him, Britain would not be as absolutely effed as it is. So who do I think will win? I think it is 50-50, and I think that you can't trust polls, and I think don't believe it. Whenever you hear that so-and-so's a shoo-in, that's how Trump got in the first time, was people thinking they didn't need to vote because how ridiculous, who's going to vote for Trump? And then, of course, he gets in. So I don't want to be one of those preachy bellends that's saying, get out and vote, but, it's also slightly annoying because quite often you might believe in it's weird that you have to vote for your local person, and that has a determining on the national result, because there's going to be times, this is the thing, I've spoken to lots of people who might want a certain person to win nationally, or a party to win nationally, but locally they support the other person, like on the other side. The system is screwed. Who will win? The answer is, who will win this election? The rich, the powerful, the bankers, the same people that always win, regardless of who's in power. Not to say none of it matters, but it's quite hard to not get despondent when who's gonna win? The billionaires. And regardless of who, I don't want to. I'm not saying. I'm saying get out and vote, but not. I'm not. Yeah, I don't want to end up with going down a depressing. It's 5:30. I've got to make the kids supper in a minute, and I'm going down a rabbit hole. Oh my goodness, I'm not even halfway through the questions. Lisa Prophet, what was my takeaway from the book Careless People? Okay, what the heck is going through my brain that I can't remember what Careless People is? I'm just Googling it. Careless People book. Did I read this? I haven't read it. Careless People, a cautionary tale of power, greed, and lost idealism. That's so weird. That was literally exactly what we were talking about. Careless People. It was published on my birthday this year. Oh, yes, it's the book it's the whistleblower from Facebook. Well, I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to read it. Careless People? Yes. About the evil done by Facebook. Oh, incidentally, on Facebook, quick one. Every time you see an ad on Facebook and it says sponsored under it, that person or organization has sent money to Mark Zuckerberg, by the way. Anyway, I can't pronounce Facebook. I spend more time on Facebook than anyone. Michelle Lynn Petite. Michelle Petite. Why can't I ever pronounce your name right, Michelle? Michelle, one of New Brunswick's best headliners, literally without question, one of the most bankable comedians we have in this province. If you are looking to book a hilarious comedian, Michelle is your act. If I were to do your gigs in the States and get sent to a detention center, how well do you think you'd get on with the other inmates? Good question, Michelle. Michelle Petite is without question, like I said, one of the funniest people. How would I do it? Part of me was going to go ahead with those Maine shows. If I didn't have kids at the age they're at, if this was in 10 years' time, to Jared's question, and my kids had left home and I wasn't needed at home on a daily basis, I would go and do these Maine shows and risk getting arrested by ICE, go to a detention center. I think I'd get on great with the other inmates because I'm a people pleaser. I would just do what everyone else wanted. This doesn't sound good, but it sounds like I'm saying that I would go out in the cell, sucking everyone off. I would not do that beyond the first week. I think I would get on. I'm a huge, possibly naive believer that, despite what the billionaires and the powers that be wanting us to all be divided, I kind of feel like. But then I've also heard from friends that have been in jail that apparently it's not the best place to be. Who would have thought it? Liam Patrick McNamara. Liam is a very, very talented comedian. Oh, he's very kindly said I don't read comments, but he's saying I'm okay at emceeing, and he's being very kind. He's saying I'm good at emceeing and comedy. Those two very different skill sets. Were you a natural at hosting, or was it a skill you had to focus on developing? Do you believe that building one's skill at hosting is valuable in opening up doors or other opportunities for new comics? If so, do you have any advice or tips? Excellent question, Liam. Yes. When I started out and I did the same 5-minute set for about a year to kind of hone it and get it perfect-ish, I then realized that I didn't have my crowd work down. So I started running a club with some friends, colleagues, fellow comedians, Julian Tuddenham, Verity, and Verity Carter and Colin Owens. And that was so that week to week I could kind of develop that interaction. And yes, becoming a good MC is vital because then you get booked onto club bells quicker than you would be able to get booked onto doing sets, and then you can impress people with your emceeing skills. But equally, the MC, you can go up and obviously just do your act if you want to. So my advice is getting up there and talking to the crowd, and there's going to be some awkward moments when you ask people questions and the answers don't really go anywhere. But you know what? I mean, if that bloody happens to everyone, it's just that all the comedians that this happens to, for every clip that Matt Rife puts out there's 500 clips where nothing happened. You know what I mean? The stuff that you see when you see Sam Morril, having these moments of gold interactions with audience members. There's hundreds that have been filmed that he's deleted from his phone because nothing happened. So yeah, get up there and have those moments. You know, it's like when you see certain comments that Steve Hofstetter post these clips, like comedian destroying heckler, and it's like him turning to someone and going, "Could you be quiet, please?" Um, so yeah, get out there, film it, and it's all about just comfort level and keep asking questions. And Tony Hinchcliffe, perfect example on Kill Tony. A lot of those questions don't go anywhere, but once in a while there's absolute gold, and when it does, it's worth it. So yes, 100%. Do as many emceeing gigs as you can. Charlotte Flewelling, favorite spring season things. Well, saying goodbye to the bloody snow. What inspired me to put Grandma Nan on my show list? It was and quite just I'd heard how beautiful it was and seen pictures, and I love lighthouses, I love islands, I love New Brunswick and Grandma. I heard from people, the people there were the best people in the world, and that was absolutely correct. We have two more questions. Mark Stewart says, "Oh, my lovely friend Bev, I was sorry to not see you on a Friday night, Bev, at the Charlotte County Christian Academy fundraiser, which was so much fun. Thank you very much, Susan Cook and everyone there." And yeah, just majestic. Me and 50 to 100 ladies in Drew Haven. It's a ladies' dinner. I'm the only gentleman there. As I told them on the night, the only time I've ever done a gig with all ladies and myself before were obviously in my women's studies lectures at school, and also one time that I opened for like a Chippendales strip troupe. When I say opened for them, I mean I did jokes before them. I didn't open for them, if you know what I mean. If I was running for PM this election, what would your platform be? What do you hold most important as a Canadian citizen? Well, good question, Bev. I mean, I guess selfishly, for me, well, it would be what I would stand for is Canadian companies not screwing Canadians. That's your number one problem in Canada. This monopoly that the Bells and the Rogerses and the Superstores, the Loblaws and the Sobeys have, they're all screwing you. And so right now, my biggest frustration, I would have to say, seeing these flags proudly these flags outside these stores that have been jacking up prices, price fixing, rigging, stealing from Canadians, using global pandemics to rip us all off, and now thinking, how can we use this Trump nightmare and everyone's fear and anger to make more billions? How can we manipulate these Canadians more? We're going to put our big flags and they're in there, proudly Canadian, proudly serving you, Canada, just so we can wring more money out of them. So, and I'm getting a bit angry, but my platform would be I would make price fixing and rigging and lying and fake sales and jacking up prices only to then pretend that you're bringing them down. I'd make that illegal. I would highlight the fact that postage and mobile phone bills and TV and everything in Canada is like 4 times the price as it is in England. You know, you can have like a mobile phone in England for like £15 a month for a contract, and in Canada, it was saying hundreds of dollars on all this stuff. So yeah, it would be all of these companies saying, "Hey, let's talk about mental health. Hey, support Canada," while they screw Canadians over. It would be stopping that, because as much as the enemy is certainly across the border, there is, without wanting to sound like a conspiracy, there's not conspiracy, just fact, the enemy within. And the enemy within is the people making food prices too expensive for hard-working Canadians to afford. And the only reason that's allowed to happen is because politicians allow it to happen, possibly because of being funded by these organizations. So I'm never running for office. I'm never getting involved in any kind of politics other than talking bollocks on a podcast. But my number one thing would be stopping Canadian companies from screwing over hard-working, decent, honest Canadians. Mark Stewart's question. Mark Delahunty, which is of course Mary Walsh, has returned from retirement. I haven't seen that yet. How wonderful. Love Mark Delahunty and love Mary Walsh. She quoted Betty White and suggested Canadians need to get ready to strap on a vagina for the trade war, since we may take a pounding. What is your take on the Canadian Princess Warrior's advice? I haven't watched the rest of it. Are we going to take a pounding? I think the wonderful thing about the absolute lunacy of what he's doing is, isn't it going to cost Americans more? I think we need to all strap on vaginas, because what we need right now is women in charge. So yeah, I'm strapping on a vagina so I can stand behind. We need women running the show. Men have effed everything up, here, there, and everywhere. And quite frankly, the fact that we're even talking politics and it's two old white men. Anyway, but what's my point? Well, I'm very proud to be in a province with a female premier, and you need to strap on a vagina for the trade war since we may take a pounding. I don't think I mean, things aren't going to be great, but I must admit, despite everything I've been banging on about, I'm a bit more positive than that. Are we going to take a pounding, or are Canadians actually going to start supporting Canadians and make it so that we're not going to take a pounding? We're not going to take a pounding because we don't need America, in my opinion. If Canadians always supported each other, we wouldn't even be in this predicament. So let's just do let's carry on doing. Let's not let this be a flash in the pan, and keep doing it. On a positive end to this, I saw some news today. My friend Marcel Lebrun announced the 12 Neighbours community announced Neighbourly Homes, a new fully managed, rapidly deployable and low-cost housing service designed to help end chronic homelessness. Project Zero, a bold initiative with the goal to eliminate chronic homelessness, and a 1.5 million donation to build 200 warm, safe, courtyard-style housing units and to kickstart the launch of Neighbourly Homes. So that combined with the things that in Fredericton, obviously there's the Sunnyside community in St. John, plus the work that Outflow are doing. This is the stuff we should be focusing on. Talking about all this other bollocks, that's the stuff that really matters. Looking after our neighbours without homes who can't afford to eat due to price fixing. Anyway, I think I've probably rambled enough. Thank you very much for all those wonderful questions, everyone. I didn't even get to the last week, but I'm sure I covered some of it. Saw The Apprentice. Wednesday, Algonquin for a shoot with Chef Kumar. Be sure to check out Chef Kumar's amazing food at the Algonquin Resort. Like I say, open up the IB in Dubai. Grand Manan, thank you very much. That was a wonderful time. Thank you, Jason and Matt and the lovely people on the ferry and everyone on Grand Manan. I'll be back soon. Thank you, Drew Haven, and thank you, Sean, and thank you, Susan Cook. Thank you to everyone who went to my son's hockey match in Bucktouche on... your friends and neighbours with John Hamm on Apple. What's the verdict? Who knows? Let's talk about that next week. I have, like I mentioned... I had a wonderful morning, by the way, this morning, chatting with the wonderful Emily, the new host of CBC Information Morning, here in St. John, originally from Quebec, Montreal, Quebec, and then you can hear the kids at home. I've got to go make supper. She worked for CBC Manitoba for many years, and now she is the superstar host of Information Morning. Had a great chat with her actually at Yip Cider on the Kingston Peninsula about my love for the Kingston Peninsula. I'll let you all know how my gig goes tomorrow morning. Obviously, the next 12 hours are going to be me sitting at this desk frantically writing, rewriting, stressing, knowing that my all future happiness depends on this going well. Wish me luck. I love you all very much. Thanks for listening. And please send your questions to comedy@jamesmullinger.com. And please do come and see me next week at the St. John Media Hospital Foundation fundraiser at the Port on Wednesday, at the Huntington Bay Company on Thursday, at Long Bay Brewery on Friday, and at St. John High on Saturday. I really need to go, not just because it's going, but I also need to do a fart that I've been holding in for far too long. Thank you very much. Lots of love. See you then. Bye.
Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.